Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. So for today's video, it was requested for me to do an updated kind of favourite makeup brushes that I like to use video. And also in particular they also asked if I could show the brushes for like mineral foundations. So I'm going to incorporate that as well in today's video. In all honesty, my brushes probably wouldn't have changed much since the last video. I actually can't remember the last time I bought a new brush. If my brushes are good, I tend to stick with them quite a lot. So I'll leave the other ones linked down below in case you want to check it out. Or in case you're new, this is probably a good video for you to watch as well. But yes, if you're interested, then please do keep on watching. Okay, so starting off with foundation, and like I mentioned, they wanted me to specifically talk about mineral foundations in this video. So that's what I'm going to do. Now I don't have a mineral foundation, but what I do have is a mineral concealer, which I have used as foundation in the past. So I'm going to do the exact same thing in today's video. So obviously, like, I've got the Lolo Belly Beige Concealer, which I use as foundation. I'll be honest, throughout this video I probably won't mention the products I'm using, but I will have them listed down below for you, just because I'm mainly focusing on the brushes themselves. But for this one, yeah, I'm using the Lolo Belly Beige Concealer. I've got two brushes for you, so it depends on what kind of coverage you prefer. Now, for me, kind of a brush that I use for creams and powders is kind of a buffing brush like this one. This one is the Real Techniques brush. I do also love the Luxie Angle Top Buffer as well. So kind of any kind of buffing brush is my go-to in general. And with a mineral concealer slash foundation, what that's going to do is produce a bit more of a fuller coverage to the skin, because it's going to pick up a lot of product. It's going to buff it onto the skin and blend it out, but it's going to, like I said, because it picks up more product, it'll place more product down and give that more fuller coverage. So if that's what you're after, then I'd recommend this brush. Or if you prefer a slightly lighter coverage, then a fluffier brush is what you should use. I did have a Lolo Kabuki big brush, which actually was made for the mineral foundations for Lolo, but I can't find it. So I've got the Lolo powder brush here. But any form of kind of really like fluffy brush will just pick up a lot less product. It'll pick up some obviously product, but it'll pick up a lot less, so it'll give you more of that lighter, more natural coverage. So it depends what you're going for. But either if you like your full coverage, go buffing brush for mineral foundation slash concealer, or if you want a slightly more lighter natural coverage, go much more fluffier brush. I'm actually going to demonstrate both on my face and do kind of half and half. Starting off with the lighter coverage, so I'm going to take the fluffy brush. I'm just going to swirl it around in there, tap off, and just go ahead and buff over the skin. So it's still going to give that coverage, but it's much like lighter than the buffing brush is going to give. And of course it depends how much product you pick up as well will determine coverage, but a fluffy brush will just give you a bit more of a lighter natural finish to the skin. So as you can see, there's still stuff peeking through this side, but that's because I'm putting less product on the face than I would do, so then obviously concealer would go on afterwards to cover that up. So that's the concealer using the fluffy brush. It still gives me coverage. It just more evens out the skin tone, and it's not too full. Like freckles still showing through, like I said, imperfections still showing through. So obviously I'll go and conceal afterwards, but yeah, depending on your preference, if you prefer the lighter natural coverage for a mineral foundation, go a fluffier brush. Or if you prefer slightly more coverage, going with a buffing brush. So yeah, this is going to give me much more coverage. Still buff it out nicely, but it'll just give me, like I said, just a little bit more for the skin. You can see the difference between both sides. Both buff in the product really nicely, but one just gives that little bit more coverage to the skin. I am just going to top up the other side so they kind of match. For concealer, I like a nice concealer brush. So one like this is from Real Techniques. It's quite thick and dense, so it picks up a fair amount of product, but it does also blend out really nicely as well. So it's a very good brush to have, and I use it as well for kind of eye primers. I'll use it for cream eyeshadow as well if I'm just buffing onto the lid. It's quite a nice multi-use brush. So I just dab on to get the coverage, and then I can just go ahead and buff out the edges once I've got that down. And same with any blemish on the cheeks, or on the chin, sorry. Again, I'll just kind of tap on to get the coverage and then blend the edges out. Okay, now if I was going in with cream products next on the face, I'd go back to the buffing brush, just because I like to use the same brush for like cream bronzer, cream blusher, highlighter, cream highlighter or liquid highlighter, because I find that it just makes sure everything blends really nicely together, and it just, yeah, it gives a more seamless kind of look to the skin, I prefer, I think. But because I'm going to go with powders, I like using an angled brush like this, something kind of small but nice and fluffy, so it like kind of, you can really get that product down. So like I said, I like to use this for all the powder products like bronzer and blusher. So I'm just going to take it, grab some bronzer, I'm just going to start buffing into the skin. So I just kind of do circular motions with this. Fits quite nicely into the areas I want to, so it's not going to blend too out or too much outwards into areas that I want to. But it picks up a decent amount of product, but also just blends really nicely onto the skin as well. And like I said, same again for blush. Again, even for powders, I prefer to use the same brush for bronzer and blusher, because I feel like it then melts everything together nicely. And like with this one for the blush, it just fits nicely in the areas where I like to kind of add that blush, and it won't take it anywhere else, but it also will buff nicely into the skin. Now for highlighter, I have been throwing using like an eyeshadow brush at the moment, quite a nice fluffy one. So this is the Tapered Blending from E40 from Sigma. It's a nice fluffy brush. It'll just buff in the highlighter really nicely. It will give it more of a pinpoint finish, but it will also blend really nicely so that it blends the edges and it doesn't look too much like a stripe on the skin. Yeah, so even though it'll pinpoint it a bit more, it'll still blend out really nicely. Onto brows, probably no surprise, I do like a small angled brush. I do have a Real Techniques brush that I really like, but in particular this is the one I use the most. It's the Luxie 215 small angled. So a nice small brush. Give me a bit more precise, lines when I'm doing the eyebrows. It'll also just give me nice like thin lines, more like hair-like strokes, if that makes sense. But also it just fluffs up the brows without taking the product too high up or too low down as well. So yes, it fits nicely under the brows. I can take it through the brow, slowly bring it up to where I want to go without going too crazy. Create that nice arch. It also holds the product for quite a while, so I can kind of dip in once and then just buff the product, the brow powder into the brow, which is nice. As I mentioned, going back to the concealer brush because I like using that for the eye primer as well. And the last 5 brushes are for the eyes. So I've got one to really kind of pack that colour on, typically for dark colours on the outer portion and really get that colour down. Sometimes I use it for shimmer, but mainly to pack on the like base colour on the lid because it'll pick up a lot of product and really lay it down. So this is the Luxie 213 shading brush. So yeah, just losing the shading brush to really pack on that first colour. And I use packing motions just to really lay it down. But it is the brush that will give me the most pigment, which is why I use it as my like base brush for eyeshadow, because it really will lay that product down. Then a brush to blend out that colour. So this is the Sigma E. Ooh, it's rubbed off, this brush. I have it, well, I should know what it is. E25 blending brush. So this is great because it's nice, it's still quite dense, so it'll pick up the product, but it's also really good at blending at the same time. So it's kind of the next level or next stage of blending out an eyeshadow. also fits really nicely kind of in the crease area too. To kind of finish off and further the blend, I'm using the blank canvas E42 brush, just another fluffy brush that's just going to really finish off that blending and give it a nice soft finish. So yes, I take the final colour, the lightest colour, and just use it just to soften out what I've done. To add some shimmer or like a real pop of colour, I like to use a detail brush because A, it gets right into the inner corner, but also just really packs that colour on, all the shimmer on, and gives a real intense finish. And this is just like one you get from Superdrug, so it's not a fancy one. The final brush is a pencil brush, as you know I love. This is actually, I want to say blank canvas as well, but the name is not on there. But it's just great to get along those low lash line and really kind of get that colour down and also blend out as well. Okay, then I'm just going to quickly finish off the look and then I'll come back to kind of round off the video. Okay, so that is this video complete and this look complete here. So like I said, these are the brushes that I like at the moment, or I'm loving at the moment. Most of them you'd have seen already before, but I do sometimes switch them out. So as I said, with the mineral foundation or concealer, depending on how much coverage you want, if you want a slightly lighter natural coverage, a nice fluffy brush like this one, or slightly more fuller coverage, go with a nice buffing brush like the Real Techniques. Probably the same as last time, Real Techniques concealer brush, I definitely prefer. Adds that nice coverage down but also blends out really, really well. For blusher, bronzer, if I'm going with cream, like I said, the buffing brush again. But if I'm going with powder, then a nice angled brush like this Luxie one. Just fits into those areas really nicely but also blends out really nicely and picks up the right amount of product to evenly disperse on the skin. Yeah, at the moment for highlighter, I'm enjoying using it with a eyeshadow brush, and particularly fluffy one. So Sigma Tapered Blending E40 brush. It picks up, it goes pinpoint the highlighter nicely, but it also, if you do circular motions, will also blend out nicely as well, so you don't get that kind of, you know, stripe effect on the skin. And then finally, my kind of eye brushes. So the shading brush from Luxie to really pack that base colour down. Just gives that pigment, gives that real like deepness to the outer corner if you're going for the dark colour, that is. Of course it works well for shimmers as well, but it will just really give that intensity and that base colour pigment that you want. Then going in with the Sigma brush, it'll just give a nice little blend. It will also pick up a lot of product as well, so it put a nice pigment down, but it's also really good at blending and it fits really nicely into the crease to do that little bit of blending in the crease. Then a fluffy brush just to do that kind of final blend of the edges. So this one's the blank canvas E12? I don't know, it's rubbed off, but I will have it linked down below. But yeah, that will just give a nice finish effect. So you can add a little bit of product or keep it blank and just buff up what you've got. Because it's nice and fluffy, it really will just go in and buff those edges out. Then some kind of nice detail brush to get right in that inner corner and also add that shimmer on. Because it's quite small and quite dense, it's going to pack that pigment on, really get that nice shimmer down as well. And you can also just like be a bit more precise, so I like to kind of shape it around to kind of match my crease or just above, so it works really well for that. And then finally a nice pencil brush just to kind of buff along the lower lash line. Also nice for like if you're doing a soft kind of winged smoky wing effect, it works really nicely for that. Just realised I forgot a brush, but I don't know where it's gone. And then of course, as you know, I loved a winged brush for eyebrow. I don't know if I'm going to put it down. Oh, it's there. So the Luxie angled brush for eyebrows I really enjoy, and I also like it if I'm doing a shadow wing liner but I want it to be a bit more precise, so I can use this and it works really nicely for that as well. So I really hope you found this video interesting and helpful. Like I said, I don't really tend to change up my brushes that often, so they do kind of, oh that made me jump. They do repeat themselves quite a lot, but and I haven't bought a new brush in a very long time. But I do hope you found that helpful and interesting. Leave any requests for future videos down below. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you all in my next video.